We are looking at Pure Fiction for version 4.1. This one is called Virtual Made Manifest. We're going to take a look at the different grid effects, mechanics, talk about the bosses and the buffs. We can talk about teams and do a little demo. So let's get started. We can start with the grid effect, Concordant Truce. After an enemy is defeated by target is defeated by any unit, all allies gain 1 stack of Resound. And we can see in the Surging Grit section, once you enter Surging Grit, all Resound stacks are consumed to deal 1 instance of set damage to random enemy targets. So that's very simple. You build Resound from killing enemies, which you should be doing anyway because it's Pure Fiction. And then you get a burst of damage on Surging Grit. And of course, in Surging Grit, as usual, increases enemy targets damage taken by 50%. And you can continue to gain Resound by killing enemies. And every time it hits 10, you just get those 10 stacks of damage while you're in Surging Grit. So, kind of just some extra bonus damage. On one hand, I kind of like it's not really tied to any specific mechanics, but also it's kind of boring. But hey, extra damage is nice. As far as the Grit mechanics, we have focus on ultimate attacks. So, after allies use ultimate to attack enemy targets, every enemy target hit additionally gets 5 grit value. So that's up to 25 grit per ultimate if you're using an AoE ultimate. So that's pretty cool. Obviously, that's going to favor characters that use AoE ultimates, which there are quite a few. In fact, probably most characters, if they have an ultimate that attacks, is probably going to be an AoE. But not really worth building your team around. I wouldn't start thinking like you have to play Saber or Acheron or something like that. It's just kind of a nice little extra bonus. As we'll see in the buffs, you'll be getting grit from other things in your buffs as well, and those are more worth building around. Okay, the bosses, this is going to go real quick because these bosses are not really all that mechanically challenging. With Argenti, he uses a lot of barriers, which can absorb a hit of damage without taking any damage at all, both on him and his little spear things that he summons. So the only thing you got to watch out for is just to make sure you don't drop a big nuke when the barriers are up, because then you'll just do no damage. It's kind of nice when you're playing. I like having Tribbie in this fight, or some other. It could be Don Hung PT, somebody that's passively doing AoE damage to kind of keep those barriers clear before they absorb your big ultimate damage or whatever you're trying to do. So that's pretty straightforward. The Sam boss, also, I wouldn't worry too much about it. In other fights, I would be more worried about Sam's mechanics, but it's not quite as important in this one because if you're not familiar, Sam will lock their toughness bar until a certain amount of turns, and then when they take their second turn, the toughness bar unlocks, and you have to either break them or you have to use 5 attacks, or attacks that use 5 skill points. So however many skill points your attack uses, it gets kind of cashed in and it turns Sam vulnerable. So you do want to have at least one character on your team that is doing an attack that consumes skill points. Fun fact, Sparxie will just do it all in one shot. Archer is another classic, although I wouldn't recommend necessarily using Archer in Pure Fiction, unless you have like Jade or something. But yeah, not something really that you need to build around, particularly in this fight, because if you are just killing the small enemies around Sam, you'll be doing damage to them anyway. And that's usually your best strategy if you can kill them quickly in Pure Fiction. So not too much to worry about mechanically there. Okay, let's look at the buffs next. So we've got 3 buffs here. The first one is Memory, and you can tell by the icon this is the dot buff. So upon entering Surging Grit, immediately recover 3 skill points. During Surging Grit, enemy takes 30% more dot damage. So skill points are kind of nice to have on your dot team. Not necessary, but it's nice to have a little extra. And of course, 30% more dot damage is nice. And every time a dot is received by an enemy target, additionally accumulates 1 grit value for allies. So if you're running the full dot team, with Hycelin's Kafka and Black Swan, you're going to be putting on a lot of dots every turn, and that is going to build your grit very fast. Dot is very good in this Pure Fiction on both sides. Definitely recommend playing that with this buff if you have them. Okay, second one is Streets of Buzz. During Surging Grit, follow-up attack damage dealt by all allies increases by 50%. After an ally target uses a follow-up attack, applies 1 stack of Resound to all allies. And then after allies launch a follow-up attack, that gives you an extra 3 grit. So this is pretty cool. There are not a lot of follow-up attack characters, at least in terms of main DPS, that are good for Pure Fiction. So this is the Ashveil buff. It is his patch, right? He is surprisingly good in Pure Fiction. Maybe not the best, but because of his ultimate's ability to chew through small enemies, he's better than I originally thought he was going to be. And this buff is nice. 50% is nice. Is a pretty big chunky buff, and you're getting even more damage because every time you do the follow up, you get another stack of Resound. So you'll be able to get a few extra damage instances in. Particularly if you're playing the Hypercarry Ashveil team, which is going to have Tribbie and Dan Heng PT, who are also doing follow-up attacks. So that is pretty cool. And finally, Commotion. During Surging Grit, all ally speed increases by 35%. When all Resound is consumed in an attack, recover 1 skill point. And then after allies use basic attack or skill, for each enemy target hit, additionally accumulates 2 grit value for allies. Okay, so this is your generic buff. Pretty much everybody is going to get some benefit out of this. Pretty rare that any character is going to benefit from all of it, with the exception of Sparxie, who, speed is good for Relation because that's going to speed up your AHA instant. The extra skill point's nice. It's not, particularly huge, but it's nice. And then, Sparxie does a pretty big enhanced basic attack for her damage. So those are all kind of nice things. They're not like overwhelmingly powerful. The real nice thing for the Elation Sparxie team is the Surging Grit damage vulnerability, that big chunky 50% damage vulnerability, because that's gonna directly increase their Elation damage in a way that other buffs might not. So that is a nice thing to have for them. But otherwise, this is like the generic buff. I think, if you want to dust off Herta as your AoE attacker, it's a good option. Her damage is primarily coming from skill attacks. Also, Finon is a good choice. His bounce attack is considered a skill attack. Those are probably your best other options off the top of my head, but pretty much anybody else you want to use is going to fall in this category. Okay. So, for today's teams, I'm going to keep this simple. I'm going to do the 2 hot new teams, because these are actually some of my lowest investment teams right now that are good for Pure Fiction. I have a lot of other teams with E2, and I would run Dot, but my Dot is now my E6 team, so it's difficult for me to do any practical demonstrations. I'm trying to do things that, like, normal, not crazy people can do in this game. So I've got my E0 S1 Ashveil and my E0 S1 Sparxie. I do have a pretty good support team because I've got E1 Tribbie, although I'm running Dance Dance Dance. And I've got E1 S1 Sunday and E0 S1 Dan Heng PT. And like I said, with Sparxie, she's E0 S1. I have E1 S1 Yao Guang, which I got by accident because I got a double, so that was nice. But I've also got Sparxie, Sparkle. Already got them. Sparkle is E0 S0. I'm running her also with Dance Dance Dance. And because I can't run Dan Heng with the Sparxie team, I'm subbing in good old Aventurine. Technically, I think Ashveil benefits more from Dan Heng because of the follow-up attacks. Although, realistically, Aventurine also does similar amounts of follow-up attacks. I like the kind of proactive nature of Dan Heng's attacks with Ashveil. Plus, he gives the attack boost, and Ashveil needs a little extra help on this, more so than Sparxie. I will say, if you're not running Tribbie on the other team. I actually prefer to run Tribbie instead of Sparkle for the Sparxie team because she just gives that little extra AoE damage to help out, and her res pen buff is very good with Sparxie. A lot of times my results are basically the same between Tribbie and Sparkle on the Sparxie team, so I think that might be a better choice if you can spare Tribbie on the Sparxie team. Okay, so that's the explanation. Let's get to the demos. Okay, so we are starting off with the Argenti fight. I've got the Ashveil Hypercarry team. And like I said, you might not expect Ashveil to be good at Pure Fiction, and I don't think he's the best. But in this particular instance, with that big follow-up attack buff, and his ultimate also being quite good for clearing out small enemies, it actually works out pretty well. Let's get the bugs out first so they don't stun me. Yeah, so this is just fun. Just murder a bunch of them all at once. Let me get those resound stacks, which we've built up quite a bit with all the follow-up attacks. Just the synergy on this team is so good. The way the follow-up attacks feed into each other. And Ashveil is actually giving some decent damage increase to Tribbie and Don Heng. Like, Don Heng does, like, pretty good damage. Like, I did almost 800k just now. Okay. So a question with Ashveil, as always, is who do you target when you've got a lot of enemies? And what I have found is usually in the second wave, I am going to target the big enemy, the elite enemy. Because you can burst them down pretty quick. You can see I've already taken out 40% of their health, basically. And when we get to the third wave, that's when we'll start focusing more on the small enemies. And that's whether you play Ashveil in the first half or on the second half. The same strategy applies. Yeah, the kind of nice thing with this Pure Fiction is the bosses don't really have anything mechanically that you have to worry about too much, where it's pretty flexible what teams you can play on each side. Like, I could just as easily swap these and play Sparxie on the first half and Ashveil on the second half. I like Sparxie in the second fight because she can burst Sam's, like I mentioned before, Sam's vulnerability mode. You can just burst that in one shot, which is probably unnecessary, but pretty fun. Okay, so in the Argenti fight, we're gonna focus on taking out the spears, and every time you take out the spear, it does pretty good damage to Argenti. You just gotta watch for the barriers and try to let Don Heng and Tribbie take out the barriers. So this should trigger Tribbie, right? And that'll remove the barriers, and then I can burst down these spears. It's not a huge deal if you can't clear the barriers on, like, all of them, if there's just, like, one or whatever. But it will slow you down. One thing I don't like with that resound, since it is random target, a lot of that damage I think just gets wasted. It'd be interesting if it just focused on the main boss, but maybe that would be too powerful of an effect. So I'm not sure there's a cap on the resound. Well, I guess the cap is however many enemies you can kill at once. Okay, so this is where I'm actually going to wait to use Ashveil's ultimate. There we go. Wait until Don Heng's dragon came up first. Just getting those barriers clear. That's pretty fun. That is fun. Oh, whoops. That was Don Heng, not Ashveil. Alright, that's fine. Just means we missed out on 8 energy. Oh, and the target is on Argenti right now. I need to move that. Nice. The Tribbie dance managed to advance Ashveil's turn before the grit effect ends, or surging grit. Couldn't think of it. Okay, so I used Ashveil's skill to break the barrier, just to make sure that we're getting the most damage we can there. We do lose the damage from the skill, of course, but better to get the full ultimate damage. I do love Argenti's classy background music. I don't know how much you'll actually be able to hear it in the video, but you know, you can hear it when you're playing. Oh, I did it again. I keep not paying attention. That was Don Heng, not Ashveil. My target keeps getting off Argenti. Okay.
I offer my blood to consume. Beasts slaughter each other. Fight to the death.
It's coming. Are you the West Wind? Away we go!
Arthur and I. I've heard the call. Serenity is before me. Through you.
So we're getting a little close here.
Fight to the death.
It's gonna be tight.
You're fighting a gentleman.
But I think we should pretty comfortably get one more Ashveil ult, and that will probably do it. Yeah, there we go.
I offer my blood to consume.
I'm tempted to just go straight for Argenti. It's probably the smarter move.
Beasts slaughter each other.
Yeah,
Fight to the death.
there we go.
For chivalry.
All right. So that was a little close, but we made it. And let's do the Sam fight.
Watch this. All's revealed in divine.
Okay, so there's not really a whole lot of strategy when you play Elation, for being honest.
With my divinations.
Aha instant goes boom. And I think I'm really going to be missing the E1 Tribbie on this. I would much rather have the E1 Tribbie than Sparkle. I'm also kind of missing out on the Dan Heng attack buff. Not that attack directly increases elation damage, but Tribbie does have, or not Tribbie, Sparxie does have her trace that benefits from attack. Should I skill with Aventurine? Yeah, why not? That should be the only time I need to do it for the whole fight. Okay. Yeah, even without the E1 Tribbie, I'm still getting pretty good damage numbers.
Fortune favors the bold.
And it's, you know, this is an E0 S1 character, too, which is pretty good. I do have the E1 Yao Guang, but the main thing that does is make it so the Aha instant from her ultimate is higher punch line, which is nice, but I would have never actually pulled for her E1. Like, it's nice to have, it's not bad, but I don't think it's worth a whole idle on pull. I mean, it is nice doing that. I say that while I get that big chunky 4 million damage there from that Aha instant. So, what do I know? I'm just some guy on the internet. Alright. So we easily cleared the first 2 waves in the first cycle. Now let's see if Sam will survive long enough for me to do the Sparxie trick. There you go, Aventurine. You took somebody out.
Bust. Or maybe I'll take it all.
So, with, I guess we should talk about the Sam boss mechanics. You can see their toughness bar is locked at the moment. So, when they take their second turn, that toughness bar will unlock, and they'll go in their, like, you know, attack mode or whatever. And while in that mode, anytime you use skill points, you take damage. So, you know, that could be a little problematic for Sparxie, but I think we'll be okay.
Divination says this stars favor us. People always say, observe the heavens with my divination.
What is nice in this fight that you don't get in other Sam fights in other endgame is you can still do pretty considerable damage taking out the small enemies. Okay, so it's their second turn, and you can see they have a little 5 counter. So every... It's a little complicated to explain, but every skill point you spend for the attack will go toward that count. So most characters are going to do 1 skill point and 1 attack, so you would do your attack and it would just go down by 1. Others, like say Archer, will do 2, but Sparxie, I guess technically like Dan Heng and Imbiber Lune could also do 3, but you'll see Sparxie can just do 5 easy. That's just a normal day for her. Okay, here we go. And I guess it doesn't hurt her to use the skill points, or it hurts her very little, I don't know. But yeah, watch that 5. And once Sam is broken, they take a lot more damage. Of course, this is pure fiction, so doing 4 million damage is not going to do a whole lot to the Wave 3 boss. But, you know, Better than doing less than 4 million. Now, like I keep saying, I would have normally done this with Tribbie. And I feel like I am definitely missing her right now. Both her and Don Hung.
Troublemaker?
No dirty tricks, alright.
Oh, Sam made it back.
Watch your head.
Best of luck. An explosive start.
Feeling spiffy?
Divination says this will hurt. Stars favor us.
Alright, so we still got 2 AHA instants left.
Divinations.
We might be able to pull this off.
Don't thank me.
The dice have been cast. Bust. Or maybe I'll take it all. Watch your head.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna make the 40,000
Explosive start.
for sure. Alright. Well, we got 78,480. Not too bad. I think if I had played another team so that I could have put Tribbie on the Sparxie team and Don Hung on the Sparxie team, that would have been a much bigger deal. That would have been much easier. 40,000 clear on node 2. But then I would have had to find another Ashveil team, which you could probably do because Ashveil is very flexible. So, you know, we'll think about that for next time. But anyway, hope you enjoyed that, or at least found that helpful. If you like this kind of content, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll catch you all later. Bye.